We were all born with the innate power of knowing and wisdom within us. The challenge for many of us is that we were taught to seek answers externally instead of searching from within. And this is the reason why so many of us find ourselves going around in circles, searching for new ways, but could never find the way. The womanly way. It's not the way. It's not my way. But it is a pathway to support all of us returning back to self, reconnect with our inner wisdom through loving ourselves, knowing ourselves, and reconnecting with ourselves.
Tell me and be honest. Tell me, should I've known?
So we can start to find our own way as modern day women. Are you interested? Well, sit back, relax, and welcome to this amazing journey. Hello. I am Lala Angela Wang, your host for the Womanly Way podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in and listening to this episode. I am so grateful for all of you guys. Okay. Today's topic is one that's it's super close to my heart. It's actually, I believe, kind of like my specialty. It's something that I have been dealing with since I was little. It's something that I have overcome. It's something that I am now observing in George, and it's also something that I'm highly sensitive of. It's something that has helped me creating pure magic in my life because it allows me to create space. And this something is that magical E word called emotion. It's emotion, but it's also about healing our emotions. It's about understanding our emotions. And what you'll find is I don't use the word dealing with our emotions, or I know some people, we use the word that we're trying to remove anger, you reduce anger, suppress, or all of those words that's relating to removing or eliminating some of our emotions. What you find is those are the words that I don't use. And I will explain why in today's episode. But I want to start the episode by saying I used to be an emotional wreck. I was what you would describe as someone who is highly charged in terms of emotions when I was little. I would be angry one moment and super excited the next, super sad. Essentially, I was living a living emotional roller coaster. If you had known me all the way up to my early 30s, especially when I was in school, even through my university years, a lot of my friends would know me as like this bomb, this ticking time bomb. You just never know when what emotion will come out of me. And I could be highly volatile. An example, there's so many examples, right? When my emotions gets out of control, I used to smash things, or I would run away from home. I would impose hurt on others so they feel the same amount of hurt. Or I'm just a bit like a Tasmanian devil, like in Looney Tunes, the Tasmanian devil that just goes out of nowhere. That was me. I still remember when I first moved to Sydney, my ex-husband used to live in this tiny studio apartment in a suburb called North Sydney. And 15 years ago, on a Saturday and a Sunday night, there's nothing around. Like, it's so quiet. There's nothing around really because it's a business district, right? And I was craving Kentucky Fried Chicken that night. I was literally like angry one moment, crying the next, because he wouldn't drive me. Like, he wouldn't take me. And if I am to get it, there's no Uber Eats back then, I had to somehow figure out how I was going to do it. And so I was like this child, which just, oh my God, out of control. And after my divorce, when I started learning about neuro-linguistic programming and learning about emotions, I didn't really truly believe it. But the more that I delve into it, the more that I worked on myself, the more I'm drawn into this work. And now this is in me, right? This is actually one of my area of specialties, helping people identify those emotions that need to be released and then help you release it. And now as a mom, I can see all of those emotions playing up and understanding how as parent we're best not to try and interfere when kids are starting to show their emotions, because this is the time when we allow them to learn about emotions and to become friends with them. I'm not even going to use the word manage, right? Emotions are not meant to be managed. They're meant to be expressed. So I truly believe that our jobs as parents is to help our kids express their emotions. So today I want to talk about, I know some people talk about the 5 major negative emotions. I want to talk about 6. And that's what I truly believe. There are 6 major emotions that we're experiencing day in, day out. A lot of them are truly trapped in our system these days. And I want to give you a different aspect and different definition as to what these emotions really means. And when these 3 emotions present to us when we were kids, what they really meant, right? And if we understand that, one will help our kids understand the emotions, I believe as adults, they will have less issues with expressing and with creating more space and becoming friends with the emotions. I'm actually getting very emotional talking about emotions. But if we can understand our own emotions, we are able to free ourselves up a lot more as well. Obviously, as adults, there's a lot more conditioning within us. So there's a lot more work needed if we want to, create this more harmonious relationships with our emotions. But one thing that I've learned, right, is that life is about duality. And the truth is, if we don't have the negative emotions, then we don't have the positive emotions. If you think about happiness and sadness, right? If there's only happiness and there's no sadness, you will never know what happiness truly feels like, because we have sadness, it allows the moment when we are happy to be so much more happier, right? It gives you, everything is comparable. Everything in life is comparable. When you have something to compare, then it gives it depth, right? If I am happy all the time, then happy really is just a neutral emotion, because there's no counter emotion to balance it. If there's no mountains, then we don't know how deep the valleys are. Same thing, if there are no valleys, then we don't know how high the mountains are. everything would just be flat because everything's high or at one level, right? So everything might as well just be flat. Same thing with emotions, and that's what I truly believe. So really, what I hope to establish at the end of today is not to fix everybody. I certainly don't, have the idea of I'm just going to, by listening to this episode, all of your negative relationships with your negative emotions are going to be fixed. But it's certainly opening up a door or a window to a different way of thinking. And I'm hoping by doing so, that will allow you to start the journey of learning about your emotions and hopefully creating more space for magic to happen. But before I talk about all the emotions, I want to talk about why once we release the emotions that are trapped in our body, we create more space. Emotions, you would have heard a lot of online coaches, Tony Robbins, or talk about it's just energy emotion, right? Think about it as if you've got a box and you're putting energy in a box and trying to trap the energy, it's going to try and wanting to get out. And that's what emotions are. They are energies in our body that's trying to get out, energies with different frequencies that are trying to get out. And that's why emotions are for us to express, not to manage. Manage is like containing it, right? And so when we have been taught to suppress, to manage, to deal with our emotions, generally it's about that pushing down approach, shove it down or containing it or keeping it within our body so it doesn't get out. But like I said, emotions are energy, emotion that needs to get out of our system. Once they're out, that's it. That's the end of it. The problem is, what have we been taught? Not to let it out. You'll hurt other people. It's rude. It's, unacceptable. And so the modern day human, in particularly women, because we're a lot more, I guess, sensitive to emotions, and we have a lot more emotion than men sometimes. That's just in our DNA. But if we haven't learned how to express it, we are unable to utilize them and we're unable to tap into our magic, right? And I truly believe emotions are the biggest magic. As human, in particularly women, that's our magic. Being able to express the emotions. And you'll understand why when I go through this new definition that I have created through my learnings about emotions. And so if you can imagine your body has trapped all this energy within it, right? And when you start to condense energy, what happens? They become denser and denser and denser. And slowly, it takes up all of the space within your body energetically. And believe it or not, when we have trapped emotions in our body, the energy gets transformed into the physical realm. And that's why diseases, sickness appears, because our body doesn't have any way to let the emotions out because we're not allowing the emotions to go out, right? So if we can't get them out energetically and they get stuck in our body, there's only one other way to expel them: through the physical realm. So anything that we can't expel emotionally that gets trapped in our body over a long period of time becomes diseases, especially cancer. Okay. It's a good mental note to take.
But what happens when you allow those emotions to start to come out? Initially, it might be a bit difficult, right? Because it's like, how do you get rid of concrete? You have to jackhammer it. How do you get rid of water? It's easier. You let it out. Trapped emotions that's been trapped in our body for a long time is like concrete. You need to slowly let it out, right? And once you get into a habit of flushing those emotions out, then it becomes like water. It just comes out daily. So releasing and forming new loving relationships with our emotions allow us to clear up all those dense energies within us. And then that creates space. And that space is where we tap into our magic, where we get to create magic, where we allow new ideas, new downloads, channels, and connection to spirit. And that's where all the magic happens. So now with this understanding, let's go into our emotions. Are you ready? So the 6 emotions are anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and grief. Okay. A lot of people don't talk about grief because they believe it's not as big of an emotion, but I truly, truly, truly believe untapped grief is the biggest cause, besides anger, of physical diseases if it's trapped for too long. Okay, so let's start with anger. Jeez, I used to be so angry, angry little bugger. And I used to think that it was in my genetics. My grandpa was an angry person. My dad was an angry person. My mom was kind of an angry person, but she's more of a passive angry person. And when I was little, I was literally like Tasmania devil, right? I would be so, so, so angry a lot of times. And I just remember my childhood, a lot of my memories are my angry memories. I remember smashing my brand new flute because I was angry at something. I don't even remember what I was angry about. But I remember smashing my flute. I remember being angry with my mom and went to the kitchen and grabbed. She's got 2 cleavers, those Chinese cleavers, big knives, one for cooked food, one for raw food. I remember grabbing those and threatened my mom. I've done a lot of things out of anger. And slowly, as I started working on it, I learned to suppress it even better, to the point where I can't feel anger anymore when I was first working on my emotions, and everything became frustration. And I thought that was a good thing. But what I slowly learned was anger gets dissipated into my body a lot quicker, but it also gets trapped all over my body. So anger was actually one of those emotions that was the hardest for me to clear. But once I clear it, I was actually clearing it for all of the generations before me. And the truth is, what I've learned about anger is it's the best gift the universe has given us. The reason that I was so angry when I was little, because I wasn't allowed to do a lot of the things. And the reason that we are angry, generally, anger is an emotion from our body, from our mind, from our emotional body, from our spirit, to say that, hey, hold on a second. You're stopping doing what I love, what I want to do. Just imagine when you're a little kid. I'll give you an example. George currently loves going into the driver's seat of a car. He loves doing it, mimicking how daddy drives. He'll even put his hand on the gearing, and he'll do the, directional click, all the things. And if we don't allow him to do it, he'll throw the biggest tantrum ever. Now, if you understand child psychology, you'll know all he is doing is expressing how unhappy he is about the situation because you are stopping him from doing the things that he wanted to do. It's still the same when we're adults, right? Because we haven't learned to deal with that emotion. We haven't learned to deal with that inner child that just wants to play and have fun. Perhaps we didn't get to play and have fun when we're little. And that's what it is. So once I understood that, whenever I am angry, the first thing I do is acknowledging it. I am angry. I am angry. I am angry. I understand that. So what is it? And then ask myself, what is it that I'm stopping myself doing that I want to do? Right? It's like acknowledging George that he wanted to play with the car. So what I did yesterday, we had the situation. He was literally crying, throwing tantrum for probably about 10, 15 minutes. And this is what I said to him. I understand that you want to play in the car. I know it's so much fun and you loved it. And no, it's no fun when mummy's not letting you do it. But it's really late. It's 5:30. Time for you to go to bed and get ready for your bath and get ready for bed. And I'm sorry that I came and pick you up late so you can't play with the steering wheel. So this is what we'll do. Tomorrow, Mummy will come and pick you up earlier, and then I'll let you play. And that's what we did today. I went and picked him up earlier. We got home about 5 o'clock, and he got to play in the car for about half an hour. And once that he got that out of his system, he was happy. He was even happy to come home with me without a whinge. How beautiful is that? So really, anger just needs acknowledgement, understanding, allow you to express and find a solution to satisfy that urge. Right? Deep inside all of us, there's still this little child that just wants to be acknowledged, that just wanted to have fun. And how often do we say no to that inner child? Quite often, right? So the truth is, the more we say yes to that inner child, the less angry we're going to be. But also there's that fine balance, not to spoil it, right? Not to, like, we don't want to spoil our kids. Like, I don't want to spoil George. There are boundaries. But I truly believe anger is always there to remind us to be true to ourselves, to have fun, and to follow our heart and do the things that we want. Next one is fear. Oh, sorry, not fear. Sadness. Sadness to me is a emotion that's quite subtle. That's kind of hard to detect. I think mainly because with my family, we're not allowed to be sad. You know, in the Chinese tradition, we're not really allowed to be sad. I've never really seen my family showing sadness. And so for me, it's an emotion that's really, really hard to tap in. It's a very deep emotion, and you have to be still and silent to feel that. But what it really, really is, sadness, is that energy of holding on to something that we should have let go of. Right? It's that, it's that goodbye sadness. It's the things that we are unwilling to say goodbye to, unwilling to let go. right? It's that person who's passed away that we don't want to let go. It perhaps is a memory that we don't want to let go of, that we didn't want to say goodbye to. And it's one that a lot of times come to haunt us when we're alone. I can just imagine every time I think about sadness, it's that violin. When you watch the movie, there's that lonely violin. But the gift from sadness, really, to me, is new beginnings. It's allowing us to understand when we feel sad about something that it's time to let it go. It's time to say goodbye. And it's time to grow on our experiences. That song, Time to Say Goodbye? Time to say goodbye. I love that song. And that's what sadness is like. If I have a theme song for sadness, it will be that song. And really, I've got a special place for sadness now. It's almost like it's that reminiscing kind of feeling. I am sad and I acknowledge that this thing is important to me because it used to be a part of my life, right? If I think about my relationship with my ex-husband and our marriage, there are still times that I feel sad because that was an important part of my life. Even though I've let go of it, there's still a memory there, right? And acknowledge that memory and I acknowledge the learnings, the lessons I have learned from it. And I have so much more appreciation for those experiences. And that's what sadness really brings us. Appreciation for the past and learning from our mistakes and move on. Have gratitude. I have so much gratitude for that relationship. If it wasn't because of what I have gone through with my ex-husband, with the divorce, with the marriage, I wouldn't be here today. Right? So it's about that reminiscing. It's almost like nostalgia in a sense, like you're tapping into old memories. But we don't live in the past. Sadness is an encouragement to live in the present moment so you can create a better life. And that's what I truly, truly love about sadness. It's a very beautiful emotion. And like I said early on, without sadness, there's no happiness. The reason that I am happy, that I am grateful, that I love my current life is because I have experienced the complete opposite. I experienced sadness. And that allows me to be so much happier and so much more joyous. Because joy is no longer being taken for granted. And I have so much more appreciation and gratitude for all the experiences that now allows me to feel happy. And really, when you have experienced extreme sadness, the things that we experience day to day that make us, perhaps upset, there's nothing comparable. So then why wouldn't you be happy? Why would I choose to be upset when I can be happy? A side note, George actually, one of the words that he has learned very early is happy. And whenever he's happy, he'll just go happy, 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 happy. And that just makes me so happy that when I think about it, I've got happy tears. I just want to share that with you guys. Okay. So anger, sadness, fear. Fear is an emotion that gets talked a lot talked about a lot, right? And a lot of times people just say, well, feel the fear and do it anyway. But that's really because, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard, the place, the part of our brain, which is our fear brain at the back of our head, that experience fear is the same part of our brain that experience excitement. It's actually the same frequency and the same energy. It's just our interpretation of it is different. So when you feel excited and when you feel fearful, it's actually the same. Right? So for me, when I feel that fear, it's like, oh my God, that is actually my body's way of saying, I am scared because I've never done this before, but I could also be excited about it. Right? And what I have been taught is to suppress that bit of me that's a daredevil. But the truth is, the real me, the authentic me, my inner child is a bit of a daredevil, love experiencing new things. I've just been conditioned to not to because it's not ladylike. Right? It's too much, especially in the Asian community, right? So what I've learned, what's happened was that in my childhood, people insert fear into me to make sure that I conform, I follow rules, and if I don't, consequences will happen, right? There will be consequences. So really, all I needed to learn was that fear is not necessarily danger. It's just something I've never done before. It could potentially be dangerous, but if I do enough of a due diligence and risk assessment, this is a construction term, right? If I do enough risk assessment and assess the situation and it's okay, then I get to tap into my excitement. So fear for me now is just an indication that we are moving into something new, something that's not been done before. And I've also established a set of protocols, if you want to call it, to assess my fears. And really, the more that we create space within ourselves, the more we can tap into ourselves, our emotions, and assess everything from a calm state rather than, oh my God, the sky is falling. Because when the emotions are up, intelligence are down. Tony Robbins, Matt Cattling, which is my very first mentor that has taught me about dealing with emotions, is also one of the phrases that he loved to use. When emotions are up, intelligence are down. Right? This is simply with the way our brain works. So if you think about when you're holding a fist, I'm going to use which hand? Ooh. Okay, when you're holding a fist, I'm going to go like that. With your thumb inside, so the 4 fingers wrapped around your thumb, that's how our brain is like. Okay? Our most ancient part of our brain is wrapped inside. And what happened is why do we say when emotions are up, intelligence are down? If you think about our intelligence center, it's the frontal cortex, which is right at the front of our brain. Okay? And if you then imagine signals from our body goes from the back of our head all the way from our neck, all the way up. And then the front is the last place that it gets to. Same thing with oxygen. When the oxygen comes in, you know how our blood, our heart pumps the blood up. The blood have to go from, in order to circulate the head, it goes from obviously from the heart up through our neck, through the back of our head, to the top of our brain, and then to the front, and then it gets recirculated. So when the fear signal comes, when emotion comes, right? Our fight or flight of our brain is down the bottom. Now, do excuse me, medical terms, body parts, it's not my forte. So I'm just going to describe it as different parts of our brain. Our fight or flight, which is our most, our reptile brain, I think that's what you call it, is at the back of our head. Okay? And when we're experiencing fear, that's where it gets fired up. And because it's fired up, blood only circulates to that back of our head. Okay, which means, guess what? Your blood is not going into the front, looking at the big picture. Right? The front of our head is where it's the command center. It's like it's the king, the queen, the commander of our brain. It's where it's got logic, you know. It's where our smartest part of our brain. But when we're in the fight or flight, that's none of that. It's all about physical. It's about the movement. It's about running. It's about fighting for our lives, right? So the energy gets trapped by there because the blood flow only flows to that lower part, and it gets the blood flow essentially gets cut off, right? It's all in the fight and flight mode. And if we can get over that initial fight or flight, the blood flow then will go into our problem solving brain, which is all about what's the immediate thing to do. And that's why a lot of times we will have knee-jerk reactions, or we will have the immediate thought about that reflux, that sorting out this problem. But that's still not the thinking brain, okay? That's just the problem-solving brain based on our autopilot response. That is now stopping your blood flowing to the front. Yes, we went past the fight or flight. We're now into the problem solving. But unless we can bypass it and go, hey, hold on, this is our programmed response. Like, for example, you're scared of height. You're on the 100th floor of a building. It's all glass. Your fight or flight is go back, run, right? Your problem-solving brain might be saying, okay, that's just get down to the 50th floor. Is that that's just, this is fear. Let's just not face it. We'll go to the 50th floor, we'll be fine. Unless you can say to yourself, okay, let's breathe. Okay, let's take some. Because breathing is actually really good because it helps you with your blood flow. Okay, let's calm the nervous system down. We're not dying. This is a safe building. What are we doing here? We're enjoying the most beautiful view here. There are no animals chasing us. The building's built solid. It's been here for years. And really what we're scared of is when we look down next to the glass that we're away from the ground, right? But what is really going to happen? Are we going to fall? No. Are we going to die? No. So why don't we just gradually take slow steps towards the window and really enjoy the view? And then enjoy the excitement, allowing the excitement to rush over our body and really feel what excitement feels like. Yes, it's going to feel a little bit like fear. We're going to feel that tingling sensation, shaking legs. But we're just very excited about this experience. All of a sudden, your physiology will change. Your mindset will change. The way that you think will change. And you might have just overcome a fear. But in order to overcome our fears, we really need to establish a way to allow our blood flow all the way to the front of our head. Because it is only then we are able to think clearly, look at the big picture, and then come up with ways to overcome our programming and conditioning. Right? If we just allow our brain to run in autopilot, we're barely using our thinking brain. We're just running everything on autopilot. And believe it or not, that's 90, 95%, 99% of the population today. In order to create pure magic and creating space for magic to happen, we need to be able to tap into the 5% of windows where we're not in autopilot, when we see there's an opportunity for us to break the pattern. And I think this is the gift that fear really gives us, is opportunity to break the pattern. To be excited rather than be fearful, to break the programming. So we're no longer conforming. But instead, we're doing what excites us. Now, the next one is hurt and grief. I'm going to talk about both of them together. Grieving, obviously, is associated with loss. Hurt, not necessarily, but it's also someone hurting us, right? And I believe both coming from the heart space. Both coming from the heart space. And so the gift for both is to show us love and a stronger heart. Obviously, a lot of times we see the opposite. People block love off. And I often say my gift as a hopeless romantic is that I can only block off love for so long. Because I'm a hopeless romantic, I believe there's always love around. Even when I have been hurt so many times, I still believe in love. Even when there's so much disappointment around me, I still believe in love. And that's really what hurt and grief teaches us, if we can see them as lessons, if we can accept that they're just a part of life, and if we learn our lessons from hurt and grief, you can look at it two ways. One, it makes you stronger because you are more, I guess, resilient. But on the other hand, I believe it also makes us more human. It makes us softer. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think our society has so much emphasis on being strong and tough and resilient, right? It's almost like resilience is about being strong and tough. But I think true resilience is about the softness. I love this thing Brene Brown said. It's about having a soft front and a strong back. So you can back yourself, but you also have the softness to embrace the world, to love the world. I can't describe it with words, but it's almost like that yumminess. You know, instead of facing this cold facade, there's this softness. And there's a different kind of resilience in the softness. It's almost like, I love describing this like water. You know, you can have water that's like down the stream really fast, and that's that toughness, it breaks everything. But at the same time, water has got this embracing nature. Like 70% of our body is water. But it just slowly creeps in, and it's all of us, right? And I love being in water because I feel like it's like a soft hug from Mother Earth. And it's just got that softness to it. So I believe what hurt and grief really teaches us is just like water, and just like what Brene Brown said, having that strong back, that's the resilience. and a soft front. And that's that softness. And that is such a beautiful combination. And I think that is kind of like the essence of the womanly way. Yes, we are strong. Yes, we are independent. But at the same time, we also love to be held. We have compassion, we have love, we have grace. And it just feels warm and fuzzy and beautiful to be around us. That yumminess feeling, right? And sometimes it is hard. Like losing something, being hurt by the people that we love. It's bloody hard. But with hurt and grief, we also hold these people, they always have a special place in our heart or in our soul or even in the skies, the air above us, because they have become angels and our guardians. And isn't it just beautiful? And I think that's the gift of hurt and grief, right? Showing us love, showing us that we are human, but also our capacity to love. It allows us to expand so much more, expand our capacity to love so much more if we can acknowledge them and come out on the other side. Lastly, but not least, is guilt. Guilt, I believe, is the emotion that shows us compassion. It shows us that we still have that humanness in us. Because otherwise there's no guilt, right? Why would I be guilty if I don't really have compassion for you? Why would I feel guilty? And that is really showing us a reflective side, showing that we're able to reflect and self-assess in a way, self-reflect in a way. And a lot of times when we go into guilt, we beat ourselves up, we become our worst critics, right? But if you can look at it and go, okay, I've learned my lesson. I know I've made a mistake. I do feel guilty. I apologize. And then you say to yourself, so what have I learned from this? What can I do next time that won't hurt other people again? And if we can really approach life in this way, always questioning how can I do better, and really take responsibility of our own action, of all the things that happens around us, even if really truly we didn't cause this to happen. Look at what part have we played in this, and how can we work on our inner landscape to improve our outer projection, right? Because this is what I truly believe. Our life is merely a projection of our inner thinking, thought, beliefs. And that's how we manifest. It's manifestation is just projecting your inner belief into the external world. That's all it is. So we are constantly manifesting every single moment in our life. They may not always be the positive things that we have manifested, because inside our head, we continue to think about these negative things. And so we continue to manifest negative things that we don't want. But if we learn to work with our emotions, if we learn to become friends with our emotions, it actually helps us to be more positive. And the more positive we are, the more likely we can manifest positive things. And that comes from taking personal responsibility towards all of the things in our lives. So I hope today's episode offered you some insight. You can simply start practicing by acknowledging your emotions. And if you really want to take this one step further, I've actually got a downloadable freebie to give away until the end of the year. And it's my guide. I mean, it's a guide for moms, but I mean, dads can use it too. Any human being can use it. It's essentially a guide plus tracking tools that will help you tap into a more balanced and harmonious life. And what inside there is an emotions tracker, which would be a great first step for anyone who really desires to start working on your emotions, to understand your emotions better. It's by acknowledging and tracking your emotions. So if you're interested, you can download the guide and planner in the show note. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And I'm so excited to hear from you what you have learned, what are the aha moments that you have got out of today's episode. Please come and share with me on my Instagram at The Womanly Way, or email me at mywomanlyway@gmail.com. Thank you so, so, so much for listening. Love you all. I will see you next time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Womanly Way. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast if you feel aligned to do so. Or check out our post-show discussions on my Instagram page at The Womanly Way. See you next time.